right? Now let's see the impact of my SQL server on my SharePoint. Now this is my SQL, which is running fine. My SharePoint also running fine. Let me to confirm back. I'm going to refresh it. All right, everything is good. But my SQL server has a problem. It is stopped. So it is going to stop my SQL server for X, Y, Z reason. My SQL gonna stop me. Let me check what would be the impact I have on my IIS once my SQL server is in a problem. So I can come here, I can refresh the IIS status. Let's check that. It said that so far everything is working fine. No issues at all. No issues at all. Also, it seems to be in my SharePoint site. Now let's come back and try to hit the central admin portal. Remember, my web server is showing everything all right. No problem in my web server. So I'm going to log in to my SharePoint portal, the central admin portal. It is going round, round, round. Going round, round, round. Because my request goes to my web server says everything is all right. Let me contact database, because all your data which related to your site is not with me. I am not a database. I am only a service. I am only a service which help you to run. But to get the data, get the configuration, I am not holding any of your data. It's not run. It's going round, round, round. Because it is able to communicate to my web server, but my web server is, when they try to contact SQL server is not responding because it is stopped. So it is not displaying any error message as of now, because it is keep holding my SharePoint. Hey SharePoint, wait, I am trying to contact. Wait, another 2 minutes, please. SharePoint, keep holding. How long, guys? Hold on. I'm still trying to make contact with SQL server. Knock, knock, knock. SQL server. But SQL server is down. It's not responding. Very difficult scenario. So it means that when my SQL stop, virtually all my SharePoint infrastructure stop. So SQL is a very vital service in my SharePoint infrastructure. When it is offline, nothing going to work for you. Web server not dependent on SharePoint. So web server say, I am fine, I'm okay. SharePoint says, I am also okay. But the problem is, neither the SharePoint nor my website holding the data. Data is in database. And until unless this data does not come, you are not going to see your interface at all. So now my server is live enough. Come back. Let's see what would be the status. It's fine so quickly now. Look at that, where is a problem and where the impact come. How will I go and troubleshoot now? Because so far what we learned that if my web server, when I try to access my SharePoint and it is say cannot reach, then I can go to website. When none of the content displayed but it is reached, then I will check my application pool. When say website not exist, error at least come, I say IIS directory. But when everything is not working, neither I am able to start the service or something, I will check services. When something special goes off, I can check a service in my SharePoint and then corresponding service in Windows. But none of the status itself is not coming. It is going round. No error is coming at all. And error will come very late. Sometimes it takes an hour to display you the error you cannot reach. Or unexpected error. Sometimes it give you unexpected error. So it means that no problem in my SharePoint, no problem in my web server, problem somewhere else. And where is the problem? Problem in my database. So if database go for a toss, we gone. We are helpless. We can't do anything. So it means that it is our responsibility and a duty that in my ecosystem, when I am so much dependent on my database, telling my database administrator to keep their server healthy, available, responsive, no harm. I have a full right to ask for the status of SQL Server. Yes, you might be a different admin, but as a SharePoint, I am dependent on you. So will you please help me to understand, is there any problem in my database service? And since all my data, which is my assets, which I am responsible to manage, is holded not by me, unfortunately. It is holded by some other service like SQL Server, which in some cases I have no control. I am not managing that SQL infrastructure. But as a proactive SharePoint administrator, I have all the rights to ask my SQL administrator with full authority, hey guys, I have hosted all my critical assets, which include my user data, in your database. Can you please ensure that this database should always protected, should always available. If anything happen at your SQL level, it is going to impact me. So I can ask my SQL administrator, will you please ensure the backup of my database? So in case if something goes wrong, I can still have in a position to recover my data, because nobody in the organization going to listen me. It is not my fault, because I am the owner of that very critical assets, which is document of my user. I cannot sit and relax. No, this is not my responsibility. I am holding that ownership. So being an owner of a SharePoint infrastructure, I can ask my SharePoint or SQL team to ensure their SQL always available, should run 24 by 7. And if in case anything wrong happen, please inform me so that I can also handle my user call. So it means that when my SQL server goes off, virtually my complete SharePoint system go for an halt. So it means that my SharePoint infrastructure is also depend on SQL server. Why it is depend on SQL server? Because SQL server is holding the database. So SQL server hold two kind of a database. One which related to your SharePoint configuration. And second, related to every sites which we create, the site related data, including my document. So even when I say recycle bin itself going to contact SQL server, because SharePoint does not hold the data anywhere. End of the day, it is going to request the SQL itself. So it means that these two database must need to protected along with all other services, whatever we configure in my SharePoint. For example, if I configure a search service, another database created, which is called search service. If I configure user profile, it's going to create another database in my SQL server. So it does not mean that you take an independent decision in this kind of environment, my SharePoint, so I can install anything. No, you can't. You have to inform your SQL administrator beforehand, because whatever you do an action here, it is going to create something in their SQL infrastructure. So if the SQL administrator not aware, they might think someone might did something mischief and they can delete your database. Because most of the time, SQL admin only aware about two databases, your configuration and your site database. But if you install any other additional service like a search, your search service is going to create a database in database server. And if my database admin not aware, then they are going to have a very serious concern here. So if you see in a very nutshell, nothing I have control in my SharePoint. I'm fully dependent service on other services which is running. As a SharePoint admin, even it is not under my control that at my will, I'm going to install any service like search service if it is going to create a database. And if it is going to create a database, we must have to take the consent, proper approval, clear-cut information to my database team member. But hey guys, I'm going to install a service which in turn going to create a database in your SQL server. Please ensure this database also need same importance, or you must also ensure that this database should not be deleted. So it means that whatever you do, it increased the load of my SQL administrator, my database administrator. And database administrator, they have a very huge task because they are handling a system which holding complete organization information as a form of data. So that poor guy is always busy of managing this very, very important infrastructure. And then you as a SharePoint admin, you are going to increase their burden by provisioning every day new services without their information. Because you said my SharePoint, that's fantastic, but it is not your SharePoint at all. You are going to use the shared infrastructure, which is SQL database. So it means that at the database level also, the first thing, if nothing happened at your SharePoint, but your web server is all right, your SharePoint all right, if SharePoint site not launched, it hold you for quite long time. You can wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but not beyond that. If it is a quite long time and web server also show no problem, check SQL server. Then do not try to troubleshoot your SharePoint. Do not try to troubleshoot your web server because this problem is not with you. This problem with some other infrastructure like my SQL server. So it means that my SharePoint again have another dependency, and that dependencies is I am fully dependent for my configuration and a user data on SQL server. There should be always a problem. I'm fully dependent on that. So if my SharePoint is a totally different infrastructure and SQL is handled by some other team, then it is also a challenge for us to do a very close coordination with my another team member. Because if something goes wrong in between, my SharePoint is not going to work. As a SharePoint admin, I can handle my SharePoint, but of course, I may have a very limited control over another infrastructure, which is called SQL server. So let's return back, and then we will see that apart from all this part, what all things we can do with SharePoint itself to track down issues with my SharePoint infrastructure, my sites, my services within SharePoint. Until and unless we do not able to diagnose the correct root cause problem, I cannot pinpoint where is the problem, because now we see that there are just so many things connected with each other. So to actually figure it out, where is the problem? Problem with my SharePoint, problem with my IIS, problem with my Windows service, problem there with my virtual directory, problem there with my Active Directory, problem there with my SQL server. I need to be pinpoint information. Then only I can either inform with the to other team, or either I can take a corrective step. Let's have a lunch break. Maniq, leaving now. See you after some time. All right.
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Now you don't have to go back into the office for a couple of days.
Right, exactly. Actually, I come to office in afternoon.
Really?
Yeah. And then
Why?
I stay here for 4 5 hours, and
Wow.
then I go back. And you know that trainer job is a very tough job. You have to speak too much.
You have to drink a lot of water.
Exactly. So every 10 15 minutes, I have to sip the water. I don't need to sip. That's all right. I enjoy this new profession now, along with my job. That's perfect. Okay. Thank you, Manikyu. Let's see you. Catch you after lunchtime.
All right.
Okay. Bye bye.